Good morning and welcome to your November 5th, 2025 super full moon in Taurus astrology horoscope. I'm Sarah at Life with Training Wheels, where I utilize a Western tropical zodiac astrology, whole sign house system, and other tools to help guide you on your journey of self-discovery and self-empowerment. My goal is to help you realize that life really is a choose your own adventure. You have more control over your life and your thoughts than you think you do, and we really do make this world our reality. One of my favorite quotes is, "Wherever you go, there you are." So if you keep finding yourself in certain situations, good or bad, it may be a time to look into the mirror. If that sounds like something you want to stick around for, a vibe that you can vibe with, then I encourage you to stick around. If this is your first time finding me, thank you for joining me, and I hope you'll stay. If you are returning, thank you so much for returning. Either way, if you could go ahead and engage with this video in some way, like, subscribe, comment, anything like that, it will help my tiny channel grow, and I greatly appreciate it. A little bit of housekeeping before we get into today's astrology. I do have a Your First Astrology course going on right now. It's a 6-week course. I've only emailed out the first course, or the first week's module, and that module is about just learning how to pull up your natal chart, as well as I walk through several tools, several different free websites and an app that I use on my phone as an astrologer, and what I get out of it. Then the other weeks are going to be talking about, how the astrology wheel is set up, what all the little glyphs mean. We're going to look at houses, signs, planets, how to put them all together and read them together, and then look at your rising moon and sun sign. And then from there, I'm gonna teach you how to take videos like this, or more general collective videos, and apply it to your own astrology chart. So this is a beginner's astrology course. You don't need any experience to join, and that is going on now. And I just email out the videos, and then you email back questions, and then from there we can, do another video specifically answering the questions, or whatever we need to do. This class is yours, not mine, so I want you to get the most out of it. I'm also trying to start a Patreon membership that is kind of like a getting to know yourself better monthly membership, where each month I'm going to be teaching a different topic of your natal chart and what it might mean for you, different placements and elements and things like that. And so each month you would get a 20-minute reading on your natal chart, so it's on that topic. So it's kind of, like I said, a getting to know you better monthly subscription. I hope you'll join me for either of those, and the links for those will be in the description box below. And if you're not interested in those but do want to help me in my growth of this channel, as well as this does take a lot of time, there is a link to just simply buy me a coffee. Anything you can contribute or want to donate, I would again be so grateful. Okay, so anyway, let's start getting into the astrology. So the way I like to approach new and full moons is layer by layer. So first I like to start by simply talking about what a full moon is. So a full moon is when the sun and the moon are opposite in the sky. It's when the moon is the brightest in the sky, right? And so it is a time when, since they are opposite, we're being called to look at the balance of things, right? At new moons, it's when the moon and the sun are conjunct. So our emotions and our drive and our focus and our willpower to get things done are all in alignment. And at full moons, it's kind of a check-in point to make sure that we're being balanced in our approach to life, basically, and to our goals, and making sure that we're not forgetting anything. It's also a time when the new seeds or new beginnings that we've planted, we can check on them, and there should be signs of them coming to fruition. In, agriculture, this would be when your the fruits of your crop are starting to emerge, and it's time now to, number one, give thanks for that, but also to take out any weeds, be grateful for the abundance that is coming through, but a time to look for any weeds, look what isn't working, look what may be stopping your progress from happening, look where you need to continue, and make adjustments before the new cycle. So that's why they say at full moons, it's a good time of release, because you're basically seeing how things have progressed, what you need to continue to do to keep moving forward, and what things aren't serving you, what do you need to weed out. So that is why it's a time of release. So that's what we're looking at here. This full moon is a super full moon, so that means this is the moon that is the closest to us throughout the entire year, which makes it very much more powerful. The sun is also really powerful right now by itself. Just it's having a lot of coronal mass ejections, and it's having a lot of activity on the face of the sun, and we're getting blasted with a lot of those coronal mass ejections and everything. So there's a lot going on. So there could be a lot, therefore, going on in the Earth's magnetic field because of both of these things. And, the Earth itself may be feeling that. We may be seeing some more weather events or things like that. But then personally as well, we could be feeling extra charged or extra tired, or, these things manifest in individuals differently. But the moon affects the tide and waters and things like that, and we are largely made up of water, so it clearly impacts us as well. And then the sun is our vitality and everything, so getting these bursts of new information or whatever coming from the sun, or just the energetic pulses coming from the sun right now, that also is kind of a big deal. But that's kind of, what's happening with the sun is kind of not a normal with every full moon type of thing. So that is something that's different with this one. And then this one is in Taurus. So that is where our energy is going to be focused, is in the Taurus areas of our chart. So what you would want to do is find where 13 degrees of Taurus is for you, what house it's in, and that will guide you toward what area of life this discussion and where you should be focused on. Full moons in Taurus overall have us focused on Taurus related themes. So Taurus is a fixed earth sign. So this full moon is asking us to basically figure out where we need to be grounded, right? It's highlighting where we need to be grounded. It's highlighting our material possessions. Taurus covers that. It covers our value system. It covers our personal money and financial resources and how we save. Taurus energy can be very stubborn, so it might highlight where we're stubborn about things, where we're fixed in our value system or things like that. It might be highlighting that, but it is really highlighting stability too. Taurus energy wants stability. So this full moon is asking us to look at where we find stability, where we create stability, how we create stability. It's also asking us, anytime anything is here in Taurus or in the second house, they both are concerned with value system. When people ask us what we value, we may list off certain things, but then if we actually take a step back and see where we're spending our time and our money, does that line up with what we say we value? So it's kind of a check-in to see what is the state of our value system. Are we giving attention to places that we don't really want to be giving attention to? And do we need to readjust in that? How can we, in a world that feels so uncertain right now, how can we ground in and feel stability? That is what this moon is asking us to focus on. But then full moons are always oppositions, right? So it's asking us to balance between two things. So then the other side of Taurus is Scorpio. So the Taurus energy is about our own stability, our own finances, our own self-worth and self-value. And Scorpio is about, so it's kind of surface level stuff. And then Scorpio is more about diving deep, right? So if our values are not aligned, we need to dive deep into the shadows of ourselves to see why they're not aligned. It's also, Scorpio is also where we are intimate, both with ourselves and with others. How, where, why we share ourselves with others. So there is that balance that we're being asked to look at, and making sure that we, with the moon being highlighted, making sure that we are centered basically in ourselves before we come to share with others, making sure our cup is full before we share with others. So then from here, I like building it layer by layer. So I'm going to pull up the chart so we can look at it and go layer by layer. Okay, so as I said, here we have the full moon in Taurus at 13 degrees, and it's opposite the sun at 13 degrees of Scorpio. So then we want to look to see what aspects this full moon is making, what conversations this full moon is making to the rest of the chart. And really, it's only making two aspects besides the opposition to the sun. It's making a trine right here to the south node in Virgo, and a sextile right here to the north node in Pisces. So with that, I guess you could say this is kind of like a fated new moon, right? The north node is where we are being asked to go on our next highest evolution as a soul, and the south node and what lessons we're meant to be growing into and learning, and the south node is where we're being asked to let things go. And so with this, I feel like this full moon is asking us to, we've got a lot of this energy here with Saturn and Pisces, or with Neptune and Saturn in Pisces, releasing a lot of energy, right? We see all sorts of systems collapsing, because Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. These planets have been sitting and going over the final degree. That's a release point. It's where, Neptune is dissolving the structures that we know. And then Saturn is trying to build up new ones. So, we have a lot of religious institutions dissolving or being questioned. I think there's a lot of people coming to or questioning religion, questioning the dogma of it, questioning all sorts of stuff. We have, healthcare institutions collapsing, government institutions collapsing, housing things, like the economy is collapsing, right? All these institutions that we've built our world around are being dissolved so they can be rebuilt. But what I think this full moon sextiling the North Node is asking us to remember is don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, because the Pisces energy is still a very important energy to hold on to, and we're being asked to hold on to it even more, right? Pisces energy is about compassion. It's about grace. It's about loving everyone just where they are and how they are, and accepting them for who they are. It is having a closer, more personal and direct relationship with the divine spirit, God, whatever it is. It is learning to trust in the bigger picture, in the oneness of it all, and to recognize that we all are a splinter of the divine. Each of us is a splinter of the divine, and we all have divinity within us. And in order to recognize the divinity within ourselves, we need to be able to recognize the divinity in everyone else too, including the people who we don't agree with, right? We need to recognize the divinity in all. I think that's something that we're being asked to. And also with that, Taurus is the very grounding energy, right? So maybe this is a time when we're being asked to ground in our spirituality, right? Whether that's through meditation practice, through literal grounding in the earth, right? Anytime you go walk out in nature, I don't know how you can go out and not see the presence of God in everything, right? And that is just my own belief systems. You may have your own and may apply this to your own belief systems, but there is something bigger, and we're being asked to trust in that something bigger, and to, with the full moon in Taurus, to maybe ground that into our bodies, and experience spirituality maybe on a more physical level, right? Like I've been talking about with this grand water trine happening, like we may all be experiencing new levels of different psychic abilities, or different intuitive awarenesses, or just sudden knowingness, being able to discern and cut through the BS that's been fed to us for so long. Maybe it's a time to really tune into your body and feel what messages you're getting, right? If your stomach turns about something, trust that. If you're told something, or you're approached, a situation and you're like kind of gasp or do something like that, like trust those little body movements. And maybe we're being asked to simply pay more attention to our body, because it responds and reacts to things that our mind cannot logically process, but our body does. Our body has all these antennae, and I think part of this full moon is asking us to learn to trust that antenna. And then likewise with the South Node in Virgo, right? There's a lot of wonderful, beautiful things about the Virgoan energy, but on the negative side, the parts that we want to let go of that don't serve us individually or collectively, individually it can help to categorize and make lists and stuff like that. But on a collective level, right, we've gotten so used to and programmed to see the differences in everybody and everything, right? Like we are programmed to see everybody else as the other. Let's find all the ways that all these people are different, and let's have them focus on that and fight about that so that they don't see what we're doing. because we're over here trying not to be dissolved. We're holding on and grasping onto straws so that our power isn't dissolved. So in order to do that, we need to keep them over here looking at all the different ways that they can categorize each other, all the different things that they can find that are different about their belief systems, about the color of the skin, about their orientation, about you name it. And we're being deceived in that. And this full moon is asking us to recognize that and to release that. Like, instead of finding all the ways that we're different, to have that tear us apart, instead have that unite us. Look to see all the ways we're similar and all the ways we can love each other, and look to see that these differences are actually beautiful, and those differences can help make us a better collective, not a worse one. And then with Scorpio, where the sun is, Scorpio wants to dig for the truth. So Scorpio is trining the North Node and sextiling the South Node. So it wants to dig for the truth of the matter in all of these things. It wants to keep uncovering the truths that have been hidden from us, from these institutions, so we can have better discernment. It wants us to see the truth of how we are being divided, the truth of what this division and categorization what it's doing to us. Now, if we look to see what the best versions of Virgo energy is, it's where we serve others, right? Where instead of critiquing others, we serve others. And we can do that through the Virgoan energy of active service, but also with this compassion and this grace and this love and understanding that we give to other people. And then also, this Virgo energy on a negative side wants to know the outcomes of things. It wants to know exactly when, where, and how. And the Pisces energy asks us to trust more in the not knowing and flow more freely, right? And all month long with this grand water trine, we are being asked to go with the flow more, asked to trust more, not to know the details, not to know all the answers, but to trust that they will be revealed with the Scorpio energy digging for the truth in the right time. So it's not to say that we give up on the truths, but to focus more on serving others instead of tearing them apart, and to not micromanage the outcomes, to trust that whatever the outcome is meant to be is going to be there as we uncover the truth. So rather than focusing on micromanaging all the details, just keep digging for the truth, and things will be revealed in divine timing. So continuing on, kind of more of a societal level, one of the questions with this lunation that we're being asked is, are we to look at our motivation for dissecting the truth, right? Are we, we're inundated with all these facts and figures and all this information that we have to sift through and sort through to determine what is BS and what is real, right? And that's where Scorpio is coming in to help, is to be able to discern that, but making sure that we're not drowning in analysis paralysis, and that we're serving the truth, which is Pisces, instead of dissecting it to death, which would be the Virgo. And then as, Neptune is dissolving all these systems, but Saturn wants to, rebuild and dream new things into existence, the only way to do that is to reconnect with, right? Like, this is the acts of service thing. So we've gotten, our institutions have been built on this procedural efficiency and, needing to serve the top and the investors and things like that, and get rid of that system and come back to the truth of why are these systems built in the first place? Why do we have government overall? What is the role of government? Should it be as involved in our lives as it is? What is the truth of social programs, right? What is the truth of our healthcare system? What is the truth of our housing system? Do we need government involvement, or can we rely more on the community and the compassion and building each other up? These are the questions that we should be asking and taking note of at this full moon. And then also with Taurus activated, I mentioned a little bit about how, the full moon is a super moon. We have all this stuff going on with the sun. Well, anytime there's interaction with the north node and south node, because those are points connected to the moon, right? They're not planets, they're calculation points based on the moon. And so we get a lot more earth activity as well, or just things showing up in the collective. So Virgo rules the ecology and systems. Pisces rules the, oceans and waters and spirit and things like that. So with Taurus being activated, which also represents agriculture and things of that nature, we could be seeing more happening within our healthcare system, within our food system. We could be seeing more happening within our oceans and things like that as well. The moon, is fixed earth. So there could be, already this year we've had a lot of earthquakes and things like that. And with the, Scorpio being where you dive deep, perhaps there could be some more earthquake activity or something like that. But also just, food related awakenings of the, how poisoned our food system is, how poisoned our medical system is, how poisoned our, there isn't air signs involved directly with this full moon, but how poisoned our air is, right? So just being aware of how we're caring for our bodies and how we're caring for our earth. Neither one is good. We need to care for the earth better, and in return, we will be caring for our body better, right? If we get the glyphosate and stuff like that out of our food and go back to like permaculture and everybody growing food in their own yards, we will all be healthier, and so will the earth. So those types of things might be coming up this full moon as well. Now, on a more personal level, this Virgo energy relates to those areas where you feel like you have to have it perfect. You have to get it just right, or it's not worthy, or you're not worthy. And it's letting go of those self-criticism, self-critiquing that you do. Like, you are enough simply because you exist. You are enough because you are here. You are loved simply because you are here. And we are all perfectly imperfect, and that is beautiful. Like, let's honor each other's differences, not tear each other down because of it. And that includes what you do to yourself. Those perfections, there's a meme, a Japanese quote or whatever, about how if there's a broken dish, right, they glue it back together or hold it back together with gold, showing that there is beauty in the imperfections, right? And that is so true. A lot of times the things that people love about us the most are those quirks and little weird things that we do that we see in ourselves and we don't like, but other people might find them super endearing and one of the neatest things about us. So we need to stop that self-critiquing and let it go. And then we're also being asked to not need to know every next step, to just go with the next step that feels right? Like, if you happen to have a daughter, like me, you probably watched Frozen a million times when it came out, and there's a great song in there that talks about how she's feeling lost, doesn't know where to go, so she's gonna just take the next right step. And that's what we're being asked to do here as well, is to feel into our bodies, feel into what's right, make sure we're not getting a tight stomach or like whatever makes us feel open and excited, go with that next step. Don't have to know where it's going to go. Just trust that we are being guided to take the next best step forward. And then I think we're also being asked to address our emotional truths, right? Scorpio wants to expose those deep, dark, expose where we have fears, where we have shame, where we have guilt, where we have all these things. And Taurus, while Scorpio exposes these emotional truths, Taurus wants to ground them, wants to help heal them. So the medicine lies in exposing and acknowledging buried feelings so that they can be alchemized into real peace. And Taurus and Scorpio working together can bring that. So some ideas for like kind of grounding in like the spirituality, the compassion, whatever, is to do something tactile while praying, right? Like kneading bread, or while you're taking a bath, or planting something, although it's, in the northern hemisphere here, it's getting to be winter, so I'm not sure you'd be planting anything, but do something tactile while you're praying. Embody the spirituality more. And then a journaling prompt you could ask is, where am I trying to perfect what I'm meant to surrender, right? Pisces wants us to surrender, while Virgo wants us to perfect. So where do we need to surrender instead of perfect? A good mantra is to say, I trust the unseen order beneath apparent chaos. And that is something I think we all need. Like, there is chaos in the world, but order comes from chaos. And although things seem very disheartening right now, very chaotic, very up in the air with what way the world is going to go, I cannot help but trust that there is divine order being created from the chaos that we are going through. And it's kind of like all month long, right? This Uranus is being activated, right? Like at this full moon, Mars is in Sagittarius in a square to Uranus. All month long, Uranus is going to be shaking things up. Going to be, say we're in one of those globes, right? We're being shaken up to see what happens, to let go of the things that we're stuck with, and to force the chaos and change upon ourselves because we have been complacent and deceived and duped for too long. And so now things are being shaken up so that order can be created out of the chaos. The other thing that's pretty great, I think, about this full moon, before we talk more about some of the other things that are happening in the sky right now and looking at the ruler of this full moon, is that the full moon is in Taurus, right? And Taurus represents our throat chakra and being heard. And everybody right now seems to be afraid of being heard and being censored and silenced and things like that. And we all deserve to have a voice. So I think it's time that we all start speaking our truth, but speaking it with truth, right? Truth does not cut people down. Truth builds up. Truth loves, right? There's the saying, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. Certainly there is a time and place to say, truths can be harsh. Truths can be uncomfortable. And I don't think we need to shy away from those types of truths. We need to see all the truths, and it's time to speak them, even if they may be uncomfortable. But there is a way to speak any truth that you have to speak with compassion and love, rather than with judgment and malintent, right? Okay, so now let's look at this Uranus or Mars in Sagittarius opposition Uranus in Gemini at 0 degrees. I think this is potent because number one, it's an exact opposition, but number two, they're both at 0 degree points. 0 degree points are the initiation points, the beginning points. They're very important points in any zodiac sign in astrology because it is the beginning, it's the birth point of that sign. And so Mars is the warrior, right? It's our I am. It represents us. It is where we are willing to fight for things. And in Sagittarius, you could say it's a warrior of faith, right? Sagittarius is our higher ideas, our belief systems, our where we're dreaming and envisioning the future to be. And so with Mars being here, it's like this bold, idealistic visionary willing to take risks to discover this truth that the sun in Scorpio is uncovering. Mars here is fighting for freedom, belief, and the expansion of perspective. Bigger mind is what Sagittarius wants. And it's about Sagittarius is where we make meaning of things. Gemini is where we collect information. Sagittarius is where we make meaning of it. So Mars here is about pursuing meaning rather than just taking action for the sake of action. So if we are going to fight for something, we are going to fight for something that means something to us. Uranus is the planet of disruption, right? It, like I said, it's the planet that shakes everything up. So with it being in Gemini, the house, a sign of communication and information and things like that, Uranus here is disrupting the information. It's rewiring how we think, speak, learn, our education system and connect. And so Gemini and Uranus here represents a lot of the technological advances that are going on right now. The data, the chatter, the day-to-day activity and conversation. Uranus is shaking that up, bringing radical new ways of thinking about things, of communicating, and of the way we understand our reality, right? And in retrograde, Uranus more internalizes this, right? I always talk about how retrograde energy is more of an internal energy. So this is us reviewing how information and technology have shaped or distorted human consciousness and the way we're living. And part of how I'm seeing this is certain oligarchs and things like that are certainly trying to push a lot of technological advancement, and that being basically our new belief system, right? Like we shall worship AI and stuff like this. They're not exactly saying that, but basically, right? Like if we're going to get to this digital ID and social credit score and have all these robots and stuff like that, like basically they want us to worship technology. And what's fascinating is I'm noticing within my own home that a lot of kids are rejecting AI. A lot of kids are rejecting this new technology, and they are going to be where our future goes, right? The future always lies with the kids, and I think it's beautiful that they're rejecting it. And so, they might be part of this warrior spirit of no, I like this doesn't go with my belief system. Or if we are going to have this technology, let's do it the right way, not the way these elites are telling us that we should do it. Let's have it used for our actual our benefit, not their benefit. So although full moons are about times of releasing and everything, this energy with Mars and Uranus are kind of about seeding something new as well. So diving into our value system with our food and the technology maybe that could be used there, and how can we readjust, how can we pull out the weeds of what's coming online with this technology, how can we shake it up to get the best out of it, to correct course maybe, and kind of asking the bigger question of, our technologies serving our higher consciousness, which would be the Sagittarius energy, or are we becoming enslaved to the distractions and distortions that can be created with them in Gemini? So we need to, I think this is kind of, this challenge point is shaking things up to see what might really land. And so this is where we could be seeing, in the collective, like protests over or pushback against technology, against censorship, misinformation, things like that. There could be innovations in space exploration, quantum computing, because Gemini is an air sign, right? And this is technology. So this could be major breakthroughs or crashes or controversies in AI and stuff like that. But the other thing that I'm seeing, and could be protests and pushback against censorship, right, in our communication, and misinformation and things like that. But then the other thing is, Sagittarius is belief systems, right? And Pisces is spirituality and things like that. And Gemini is like facts and figures and things like that. So this Mars opposite Uranus in Gemini kind of represents belief wars, which we can definitely see in the collective. And most wars are created because of a clash in beliefs and things like that. And that is definitely going on. But there is so much talk in the collective, about various belief systems. And I think there's a lot of things crumbling, a lot of things coming to light, no matter which religion you're talking about. I'm talking about all across the board, not just one in particular. It's a big topic right now, and that is part of what this is being asked. When North Node is in Pisces, there often is historically great spiritual awakenings that occur where we're trying to go back and find the truth and find the divinity within us, rather than relying on institutions to tell us what to think and things like that. So that is definitely going on in the collective and can be seen in the astrology. And so with this opposition between Mars at 0 degrees of Sagittarius and Uranus at 0 degrees of Gemini, we could see, religious, political, or philosophical polarization spiking, with people fighting to prove their version of truth. And that's something that, we're all digging for truth, and truth is going to be different for each of us, and we are all on our own path to develop our own value system. And I think this is where we need to have the compassion of Pisces and the grace, and knowing that everybody's on their own path. Everybody's going to learn these truths or discover their beliefs and their value system at their own level, and that we don't need to nitpick and be right and our way is the true way, and we need to accept people where they are for who they are, and just work on bringing truth wherever it may lie to the surface, and then let people make their own decisions, and then accept them for those decisions and love them, because we all come from a different life experience and we're going to interpret things differently. We can't expect anybody else to interpret things the same way we do. The other thing is, Mars in Sagittarius wants to move fast. It wants to move quick. Uranus in Gemini wants to move fast, wants to move quick. So we have all this information, and Uranus represents physically our nervous system, right? So we could be overstimulated mentally, overstimulated with our nervous system, And what Taurus, I think the full moon in Taurus is helping us to recognize is that we need to ground in, right? In order to the inundation of everything that's going on in our world, we need to figure out how to ground in and create that stability for ourselves, whether that's literal grounding in the earth, going on nature walks, or doing whatever it is that we need to do to ground ourselves into the world right now, to find our stability, to find our center, and to keep it. And then if we want to take the highest vibration, right, Mars in Sagittarius wants to declare truth, and Uranus in Gemini demands open-minded dialogue. So if we can get past ourselves and past our ego, this is an invitation to be both student and teacher at the same time, to act on what you know, but stay flexible about what you don't. Recognize that, there's a great quote, the more you know, the more you recognize the more that you don't know, or something along those lines. So to be open-minded, to be willing to speak our truth and to speak to what we know to be true, but to be willing to be wrong, to be willing to hear another person's point of view, to be willing to know that we don't have all the answers and there's no way we could. And the other thing this energy represents is Mars is where we find courage, right? So Mars in Sagittarius is the courage to believe in something bigger, and Uranus in Gemini is the questioning of everything. So the challenge is to trust your inner vision. That's where this North Node in Pisces comes in, to trust, without rejecting rational discernment, which is what we need to keep with the Virgoan energy, is the rational discernment, not irrational. So then just looking, the last thing I want to look at is Venus, because that is the ruler of this full moon, and Venus is sitting here in the final degrees of Libra, and Libra is all about the other, all about thinking about the other, all about, and Venus is home here. Venus also rules Libra. Venus rules Libra and Taurus. So the focus is to think about in all of this and finding our own stability and digging for the truth, all of this energy. We need to be reminded to think of the other as well, and how we all play into society, and how I also see this kind of, even though third house Gemini represents community more, right? Libra are those very close relationships, right? So how are we taking care of those people within our close knit friendships and groups? And Libra just represents the other overall, right? So to make sure that we are coming with compassion to everyone, and and grace and love and acceptance of all people, and figuring out how to come together. Libra is also justice, right? So serving justice where justice needs to be served. I think that's another big point here, is we all, I think, for various different things that are going on in the collective or in our own personal lives, want to see a little bit more justice, and hopefully this full moon is bringing that. Looking at this Venus and what aspects it is making a square to Pluto in Aquarius, which is that transformation, that shake up in the collective, that transforming, the society has to change in order for and Pluto wants to dig for truth as well. So this is more truths coming to light, and Venus hopefully bringing justice to these truths that are coming to light, the way that power structures have manipulated the collective and things like that. Hopefully hopefully there's justice being served with that, but also coming at it with love and compassion. And then a square to Jupiter as well. Jupiter, even when it is involved in squares, this is a very two benefics. Jupiter and Venus square each other. It often just brings blessings, right? Anytime anything squares with Jupiter, it can be, or Venus, it can be felt as tension, but more often than not, it is opportunities for healing, and there are good things that are coming out of it. So with this square between Cancer and protecting our home and our emotional world and things like that, we are being blessed and being given opportunities to do that, opportunities for healing our emotional system and bringing justice, and thinking about the other and fairness and things like that to your own world and maybe to the world at large. And then we also have this Venus in opposition to Chiron in Aries at the same time that Jupiter is squaring this Chiron in Aries. So this is both Venus and Jupiter, very benefic, loving, expansive planets, bringing opportunities for healing to your Chiron area, to the wounds, to your wounded I am, to those places that you've kept yourself small for the sake of others, right? So now we're being asked to ground into our truth and find our truth and speak it and do it with compassion. Let go of the nitpicking of ourselves and others, and how do we serve others, and claim the space that we want to take up, but at the same time allowing others to do the same thing, right? Because we're all working through this wound of where we've been small. So we're all collectively feeling that. So we're all collectively trying to find our voice, trying to find our truth, trying to find how to take up space. And one of the ways to do that is to, number one, have your own value system intact, but then to be willing to be intimate and be vulnerable and go into the truths of who you are and who other people are, and hold space and compassion. We all deserve space. We all deserve to have somebody hold space for us and to see us wholly and completely, flaws and all, and love us, right? Like, that is what this North Node in Pisces is asking, and that is how we can heal this wounding in the I am energy, as well as through the opportunities through, Cancer, through our emotional stability, through our home life, and Scorpio through the energy, through Libra, the energy of fairness and, the kind of the golden rule, going back to the golden rule. So there's a lot going on in this chart, and they all seem to have very similar messages. So hopefully you can take away from this. This is too long to be able to do, individual readings for this, but you'll want to kind of look at where the second house is for you, where Taurus lands in your chart, where Scorpio lands in your chart, where Pisces and Virgo and the North Node and South Node are landing in your chart, and then, where Sagittarius and Gemini, and these will be the places mainly, and where your Aries is as well. So you'll want to just look at all these and see kind of how the storyline pertains to you, and if it is something that you want help with, if this is something that you find you're being hit hard with. Like, for me personally, this is activating a grand fixed cross in my own chart. It's sitting basically right on my natal Chiron and my natal sun, and which is then activating my north node and south node are here. So, but this full moon is activating this square that I have in my own personal chart. So that is super exciting. But if you need help figuring out how it is activating your chart, I'll put a link in the description box below for getting a personal reading with me, if that is something that you would like. Otherwise, comment below with how you're feeling this full moon energy. Give me a like and subscribe if you want to see more of my readings, if you like the way that I approach them, and I hope to see you back here again soon. I am still uploading the November astrology by sign. They do take quite a while to upload, so just please be patient with me, but I am getting through all of them. I have about 5 more. So over the next couple days, hopefully I have those all uploaded. I hope you have a wonderful day, and again, let me know if you need any help interpreting this for yourself.